Yesterday, Cobblestone was removed from the active duty map pool to make way for the incoming Dust 2. Now, in this video, I want to go over two things really. My thoughts on whether or not it was a right decision for Cobblestone to be the map that was removed, and to how it's going to affect the competitive scene. So, thoughts on which map should be removed. I mean, I'm still fairly adamant that Nuke should be the map that would be removed when Dust 2 came in. I wrote that article where I highlighted Nuke's lack of popularity. My argument is that the whole point of having a map pool, having 7 maps you can go to, or pick your maps within that pool and then do pick and ban phase and figure out where you want to go, is that you want to have like it's a diversity thing that you want different sort of positions for CT players to play. You want to reward different T attacks, different styles of like T side. You want to break up the monotony and not just reward certain specific skills, right? You want to have diversity, variety. And if a map's like Nuke is that unpopular, it doesn't contribute to the concept of having a pool, because it's just like not played, and no one, everyone talks about how cool the 2-layered bomb site is and stuff, but if it's not getting played, it's not like it's being enjoyed, and this unique jewel of a map is getting, the gameplay of the map isn't even getting seen because it's just not played very often at all. There was like 2 or 3 tournaments in a row where it was played like 0 times or 1 time back at the end of 2017. So that's why I think Nuke should have been removed. Now, there were changes to it, so I completely understand that, it should stay in the map pool, and we'll see how these changes play out. Fair enough. But my other point, I actually, in that article, I also suggested that maybe Cash was an object for removal. I thought it was the next best candidate. Now, with Cash, I mean, I'm not super down on Cash. I think it's an interesting map and something that people could have played more. But my thought was, okay, it's also a very unpopular map relative to the other maps. The pool's like the second least popular map. But there's going to be play style, like in a very broad sense, there's going to be overlap between Dust 2 and Cash, because Cash, there's a effectiveness to the executes, and there's different ways of taking down the CTs, so getting territory as Ts. There's so many options, so many routes for success, that it forces the CTs, to be proactive and take engagements, and not just sit back in the sites. You really can't do that on Cash, which forces like this active, skill-based, playmaking-based mid-round on Cash, which people like to say it's a skill-based map, which I think is fair enough. And in that sense, it's similar to a Dust 2, I think. They're both sort of, and just lay out this very, very broadly, so these giant mids, where you can really use them to take advantage of, to corral the CTs and get really good attacks off on sites. But yeah, so that's why I thought Cash might be a good choice for removal, just so it's not a huge meta affecting change. Skill-based teams or looser teams aren't going to get this huge boost when Dust 2 comes into the map pool, because you're removing Cash, which is similar. But Cobblestone is the map that's going to be removed. And, I'm not someone who's super down on Cobblestone. Some people really dislike the map, and I think that comes from, if you're a player rather than someone like me who just mainly watches the game and writes about it and thinks about it, it's obviously different. And, positions might be super boring, or it might be super hard to do certain things, and it seems really unfair. I understand that, but from my perspective, I thought that Cobblestone was a pretty interesting map to watch. Maybe not in a game-to-game sense, but like in a sort of theoretical sense, because I thought the CT side is sort of funny because people talk about how terrible the CT side is, but I was pretty interested in sort of the theoretical underpinnings of the CT sides on Cobblestone in 2017, because you see teams like Gambit having success with a style I think is more quote unquote defensive or passive, where they had like a 1-4 setup, one guy A, four guys B, and they sort of, it's all about sort of rotating and retaking and not playing super up on the sides, but sort of playing more passive and trying to win retakes. So if they go A and it's just Zeus there, I have to do this big 4v5 or 5v5, or depending how Zeus does on that site, then this big retake onto the A site. Or if they go B and sort of bisect the site, then there's just like three guys outside of it, and those three guys would be like if Hobbit and Mo were cut off from the rest of the team because they sort of played more passively, just like sort of two guys on the main part of the site, then there'd be like Zeus, Dozia, and Adren sort of having to do this retake to the main part of the site and try to get to the bomb plant. I thought, Gambit was sort of good at that, but then you see people like G2 try to get some, not maybe play like an aggressive style CT, but it's more of a permanent 2-3 setup where two guys A, three guys B, and they're just trying to snuff out. They're not trying to let the site be taken. They're sort of putting all their eggs in that basket to hold rather than to relent and retake. So I thought there was some interesting theoretical stuff, and there's a bunch of teams who were good on Cash, and Cobblestone, who could win a lot of games, have a really good win rate on Cobblestone. Top teams like SK, G2, Gambit, VP going even back into 2016 and very early 2017. So I think it's weird because it's like, it's an effective map in that sense. North was a pretty decent team as well on Cobblestone, where teams can have success. They can have as like a specialty pick, or like they can play the map and be successful on the map and have that as a part of their pool, where something like Nuke was almost a part of no one's pool, or Cash, which was not really a part of anyone's pool, sort of a toss up between everyone. It sort of functions as like you can have this map in your pool and you can be very effective on it, and it's just sort of a known quantity in that sense, where you sort of have to worry about the effectiveness of a team who plays Nuke or Cash, because people who play Nuke often have the banned against them and they never get to play it in a best of one. And yeah, maybe it's their first pick in a best of three, but it's not going to be played that much. In Cash, yeah, same sort of scenario. And then, with Cash, maybe it's sort of even coin flippy, or not 100% assured if you're even going to win that game, if you think you're a great Cash team, as we saw with SK adopting Cash in sort of mid-2017, and then sort of going away from it after losing games to teams like Space Soldiers. But let's talk about, let's not go into my sour grapes on Cobblestone being removed, because I think it's understandable. So many people dislike Cobblestone. It's not like just some fake myth that people hate it. I understand why people would say it's problematic. Just with the stagnant CT sides, with unable to aggress on the Ts, and maybe the difficulty of the positions. I understand that, but talking about how it's going to affect the competitive scene is sort of a weird scenario, where I think the rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get poorer. But maybe the first place to start is Astralis and FaZe, because Cobblestone is the permanent ban of Astralis and FaZe. Now, I think this is going to affect their 1-to-1 matchup, like your straight matchup in a pretty interesting way, because back in IEM Sydney last year, you saw FaZe and Astralis play this dance on Cobblestone where they played it against each other in the group stage, sort of in a game of chicken, because they both banned Cobblestone. So in the pick and ban, they're like, I'm going to keep putting off banning Cobblestone so the other team has to do it, and they ended up just going to Cobblestone, and they played it, and Astralis sort of won easily. It was like 16-5, 16-6. So when they went to best of three in the semifinals, yeah. Astralis just first picked because it's like, well, we won so easily last time, we might as well just first pick it when we play FaZe, because they're also bad on it. But then it ended up FaZe actually had a pretty good T side. They were sort of saving strats or whatever, and there's a whole thing on Twitter if you want to believe Kerrigan on that or not. Anyway, it sort of was a humiliating defeat for Astralis, and then they sort of had this thing where they were sort of from then on like, we're not going to do Cobblestone versus FaZe, let's just ban it ourselves. So there was an advantage in the pick and ban phase for FaZe, and yeah, no, it sort of led to it. I think FaZe were a better team than Astralis in that period of play, going into post the PGL major into later 2017. But they always had that pick and ban advantage. And I think Astralis had we were losing all those best of three series from then on versus FaZe. So it's interesting how that dynamic is going to play out. And it's interesting. It's really interesting to think about what maps these two could move to with their permaban. FaZe is a team I think that's traditionally been strong on three maps: Mirage, Inferno, and Overpass. Now, Cache is something they've really adopted as well, and so as sort of their Inferno's fallen off, so it's more like Cache, Mirage, Overpass for them now. We'll see how. It's not the same team anymore. Now Ziggs is on it, so we sort of have to wait and see on that. But I guess OLF Meister's coming back. But yeah, generally it's those 3 or 4 maps. Train, Cache, and Nuke have been less success. Not Cache. Train, Cobblestone, and Nuke have been less successful to them. So it might be Nuke permaban going forward, or a Train permaban like G2 does. They might even. It seems silly to me that they might ban Dust2, because it seems like they're such a skill-based team that they would be the exact sort of roster that would enjoy a Dust2, which is what I was thinking with Cache 2. They probably should be a good Cache team. So it's sort of weird that they didn't pick that up initially. But anyway, yeah. So I think FaZe is one of the best teams in the world. They're only going to get stronger for this pick. I think maybe Train might be a good permaban option for them. But I think it'd even be interesting if a team like FaZe just gave up on Inferno, gave up on that sort of map that everyone plays in and has back and forth success on. Just give up that and just focus on like a core maps that you can win, and just sort of not even worry about that. But FaZe probably won't do that because of their past success on Inferno. Then we go to Astralis. I think they have some options. I think it's the most likely that they just make Cache their permaban. They'll play Dust2. They'll maybe not be the best Dust2 team in the world. They were a pretty good Dust2 team when it actually went out of the map pool, so we'll see on that one. I think, with Astralis, I almost think that it might be interesting for them to permaban Mirage or Inferno too, because these are the 2 most popular maps. I always wonder why. This is sort of like a more meta thing where you think about your permaban in terms of the rest of the scene. It might be interesting to ban these most popular maps and just focus on your own specialty picks. But I don't know if teams think about it from a meta, from a scene perspective, rather than just an individual. What maps are we good on? What maximizes our talent? So I think people don't do that. They just ban whatever they dislike. And some maps are just more stylistically difficult, like Nuke, like Cobblestone, like Cache, where teams can't really seem to adjust to it, and they just make that their permaban. So yeah, no, it's sort of interesting to see where those 2 teams go. But yeah, it's sort of interesting that both Astralis is sort of surging as a world power right now. People saying they look really strong just by looking at them. We still have to see some results from them to prove sort of their legitimacy. But they seem to be like at the top of the same phase. Obviously, other roster change, but they seem still a pretty strong team just from their historical output with this roster with Olaf Meister and Guardian ever since the change away from Alu and Kiyoshima. So they're removing their worst map. So this is probably going to be a beneficial change for them. So the rich are getting richer is sort of the general thing I'm saying with this. But you also have teams like Mouse Sports who looked very strong recently, who seem like they definitely be a strong Dust2 team just stylistically and then historically. It's not almost none of the guys from that old Nico Mouse Sports are on this team. It's just Chris J. But stylistically, you think they'd be a good Dust2 team, sort of looser, fast tactics, high skill. And yeah, they seem like they could be advantaged from this Dust2 add-in. They were never a Cobblestone team or like sort of a middling Cobblestone team, so that could be an advantage for them. Then we go to teams like Liquid Cloud9. Maybe this is a positive for them. I think it's maybe less so. And, we still have to see these teams with their roster changes, how they play out. Maybe Cloud9 becoming a more tactical team with FNX. Not FNX, FNS. I know like hundreds of people have made that mistake. It's a slip of the tongue sort of thing. And then, Liquid maybe... I think they're a very proactive CT team. Like their CT sides are very proactive and maybe to their own detriment sometimes. So it'd be interesting to see how they perform on a Dust2. It seems like it'd be in their wheelhouse. But teams, talking about the poor getting poorer though, it seems like teams who are sort of struggling right now, SK, G2, Gambit, North, they all are sort of taking a big blow by getting Cobblestone removed. Now, Dust2 might be a good for French teams. There's this traditional thing where they're good on Dust2, so maybe it evens out. SK also was a good Dust2 team, but maybe never great. I don't know. Maybe that's not true. We'll see how that works out with Stewie 2K and that whole thing. It might be a net positive for SK, but all these teams, SK, Gambit, G2, North, are traditional Cobblestone teams, and especially for North, and actually Virtus Pro too, as a traditional Cobblestone team. These sort of teams are all failing. North and Gambit and VP wouldn't, in your mind's eye, wouldn't be necessarily good Dust2 teams. So it seems like it's just like a net negative for them. And you think it's almost going to sort of further this cycle of them falling down on the world rankings. Now, I guess I should caveat this. Maybe this sounds like anti-analysis or something, but remember last year, Virtus Pro was sort of seen as like the God Kings of the competitive scene, because not only were they very strong, beating Astralis in that best of 3 at DreamHack Masters Las Vegas and making it to the finals of the previous tournament, the E-League Major, and almost very, very, very almost very close to winning that event. Then they get their permaban removed and Inferno come back into the map pool. You think this is sort of like VP's going to be unbeatable. They're going to have a 7-map pool, and then they ended up crashing and burning and dying. Now, that probably had nothing to do with the map pool, or that happened despite the map pool, but just because we have these predictions about what's going to happen with these teams dying or staying alive or improving with the change of the map pool might not actually be so. And some of our expectations might be warped in that sense, but it's not. Maybe I just bring up this point because it's not as fatalistic as, okay, this change happened. We know for sure what's going to happen with these teams. I think the way Inferno affected the scene was pretty dramatic, and it hurt some teams, I think, like Astralis. Um, so we still have to wait and see. We still have to see what happens. Nothing is final or assured necessarily, but I think it's a pretty good. I said this video is a pretty good starting point for what's going to happen with this map pool change.